Jamming with History, Chapter 16. A Show, a Wish, and Dinner. Before Roman could really process what was happening, Virgil stopped and let go of his hand so casually that the flutter of hope died in Roman's chest. Of course, Virgil had made it a point not to take his hand all day. Of course, just now wasn't deliberate. He just wanted to put some distance between them and the reporters. Which reminded Roman. Those reporters, when they said you'd be good for my image, I think they were talking about my choice in clothing, Virgil muttered before making a theatric gesture to himself. Look how tolerant he is of the dude in a skirt. He almost managed to sound like he was joking around, but it was clear that he was annoyed by it. He made a gesture as if shoving his hands in his pockets before being reminded that he had none. He settled for playing with his skirt instead, which was mildly distracting, but Rumor made himself focus. Though I'm sure that when the reporters figure out my past, well, I brought my team and the gang up to speed, so they won't find out from a tabloid. I owe them that much. Roman felt guilty. You shouldn't have to share that stuff because of me, he muttered. Virgil turned to him with a frown. Hey, dude, no. I'm the brother of Thomas Sanders, and I'll be featured in at least one of his future videos. He has tweeted about me a few times even. It was bound to happen. If not now, then in a month. I planned today knowing that my story would become public knowledge. Honestly, it was a push I needed to finally tell them. They all seemed to be cool about it. So, no moping. Let's get something to eat and head out. When is the show? That piqued Roman's interest. I didn't know there was going to be a show, he said, intrigued. You didn't really think I got all dressed up just for you and some losers with cameras, right? Virgil smirked, back in a good mood. It's a whole red carpet event, he informed him as he led him into a food court that produced an amazing smell. But first, the best waffles you'll ever have, he added. Virgil, you charmer! Looking extra handsome today, I see, the grinning man at the cart exclaimed as he mixed some batter. Hi, Kurt. How's Ellie? Virgil asked pleasantly. Wonderful, Virgil. She's excited to be moving home in the summer, though she will dearly miss you, of course. Virgil chuckled. And I her. Kurt, this is Roman. Roman, this is Kurt. His daughter and I met in middle school. Roman nodded in understanding, feeling deeply for the pain this brightly smiling man must have known. They are from Belgium, and brought many of their delicacies over here. Kurt made a bow. Indeed, waffles from Brussels, real Belgian chocolates, and of course strawberries. Whipped cream, powdered sugar, there are many ways to enjoy the best waffles in the world. Now, what are you two looking for? He asked, gesturing to the list of toppings. Princey, you are the man of the hour. What do you want? Virgil asked, turning to Roman. What a question! Rowan's eyes drifted over the toppings. It all sounded delicious. Can I have strawberries and chocolate? He asked. Kurt clapped his hands. "Sh- True love's kiss. Good choice. He leaned towards Virgil. I like this one. He grinned knowingly before righting himself. And for you? Same as usual then? Virgil nodded. Sure. And at once Kurt started baking while he talked about how they came here years ago for his wife's work. The plan was to stay for 2 years, but their daughter got sick and they didn't want to make the move back until they were sure she was healthy. She was going to university now, though, and after 4 years of remission, they decided to return home. Kurt was training someone to take over the food stand. At the end of his story, he handed both of them a waffle with strawberries covered in a generous helping of molten chocolate. Enjoy, you two! And after a chorus thank you, Virgil led Roman away so Kurt could help his next customers. Roman took a bite and was sent straight to heaven. This is so good! He exclaimed. Yeah, I'm going to miss this. I doubt anyone can make these the way Kurt can, Virgil sighed. The world must know about this gem, the woman decided as he took out his phone. Do you mind posing with me? He asked. Virgil chuckled. For what? Insta? I figured I should work on my online presence now that I'm a public figure. He shrugged, nodding back to where the paparazzi has once again gathered to stalk them. Besides, taking away any scoop from those vultures is a win, he explained. Virgil grinned, eyes twinkling playfully. All right, let's do it, he agreed. Woman beamed and snapped a selfie of them holding up their waffles. Okay, now what should I caption it? The woman mused. This is what love tastes like? He suggested. Virgil chuckled and nodded. Be sure to add the tag True Love's Kiss. People are going to love that, the skater pointed out. Woman pursed his lips. You sure about that? He asked tentatively. Virgil nodded. Tag me if you like, depending on if you want to make it easy for the vulture to figure out my name. Woman nodded. He added a tag Disney Besties as well, just to have something to point at to correct any rumors should it be needed. He tagged Kurt's card for good measure, and so the message was out in the world. Virgil was tapping on his phone, and Roman got a notification to let him know that Virgil was now following him. So, Virgil said between bites as they headed down the street. Danny seems cool. Roman had expected it would come up at some point. He was kind of glad it had taken this long. It even sounded like Virgil only brought it up because he wanted to change of topic. Yeah, he's been with us since I was like 12. Our previous steward, Henry, trained him before he retired. We still exchange letters. Henry saw me grow up, and then he's kind of a big brother figure. Virgil nodded. I assume that a steward means there is a staff. With a house that big, you need one. Homer was glad he didn't need to explain that one. Usually, if he let something slip about the staff, he got looks or jokes. Even his friends usually had to think a moment about how to react. Apparently, they forgot his family was rich most of the time, which I suppose wasn't a bad thing, but it made him feel embarrassed about his background all the same. Virgil didn't forget they grew up different, but he rarely made him feel like he should compensate for these differences. And when he did, he managed to find the right words to reassure him. The woman wasn't sure if he knew that it was something he felt insecure about, or if he was just careful not to come across the wrong way in general. Whichever it was, the woman appreciated it. Yeah, there's a few. You'll probably meet them when you come over to work on a project, he said. They were making great progress. They were already in the final writing stage. The next meeting would be spent working on the PowerPoint, both the document and actually presenting it. Starting right away and staying on top of things had certainly worked out. At this rate, they'd be done before studying for finals could even become an issue that clashed with their schedule. All they'd have to do was rehearse. Hmm, yeah, I guess your parents really warmed up to me, huh? He mused with a smile. Roman nodded, smiling as well. Maybe if he told them he wanted to date Virgil, they'd actually be cool about it. They seemed to think he was already involved with him anyway. I mean, they offered you a job, he pointed out. Virgil snorted. Oh, I never thought I would be one of those. You know. He made a serious face and pretended to read something while adjusting imaginary glasses. So, Mr. Sanders, to conclude this job interview, I want to know about your work experience. He turned and pretended to tuck away a strand of hair behind his ear. Uh, you know, he said in what woman could only be described as a valley girl voice. The usual, barista, store clerk, and I suppose I did some, light modeling. They both burst out laughing. Seriously, though, you should think about it, the woman said. You do pretty good, I think. Though, don't forget about me when you have, like, countless guys, gals, and non-binary pals fawning over you. Smiled awkwardly. Virgil chuckled. I couldn't forget about you if I tried, he told him softly, and the woman swore his heart stopped for a good few seconds there, before going in overdrive. Virgil wiped his mouth as he led the both of them to a trash bin so they could throw them away before leading them to what looked like an old movie theater. The art college has showings here every once in a while. I got tickets to see this short film someone's been working on all year for their final project. I think you'll like it, Virgil said softly, as they approached the door and he retrieved the tickets from his bag and handed them to the doorman. Looked good. Enjoy the show, they smiled kindly. Virgil and Roman both smiled and waved and walked inside. And Roman was in awe. I did say this was tied to the art college. I don't know why you look so surprised. Virgil smirked. There couldn't be more than 50 people in the room, but they were all dressed like it was the Met Gala. It was a wonderful collage of colors and self-expression, though all the outfits seemed practical for a showing. Come on, let's get a seat. Or do you want to get a snack? Virgil asked. I already have one, Roman said without thinking. When he realized what he said, he prayed that Virgil hadn't heard him. Sorry, it's loud in here. What? Oh, thank the ancients. The waffle? I already had a snack, he repeated. Oh, yeah, right. Something to drink? Virgil suggested. Yeah, I should probably hydrate, Roman agreed. After they got their drinks, paid for by Virgil, which made Roman determined to figure out a way to return the favor, because seriously, he could pay for his own drinks. It was nice to be taken care of, he couldn't deny that. They settled down, soon joined by a dozen or so other audience members. Are we the only outsiders here? Roman wondered softly. Probably. Why? Virgil asked. How did we even get in? The young actor wondered. I kept an eye out for ticket sales. Virgil shrugged. It's not close to the public. Most people just don't like spending money on a risk. But I promise this'll be worth it, he said. Women didn't doubt it for a moment, and it really was a wonderful use of their time. For 30 minutes, they watched a lovely story between two people. It started in Soothing Sepia, a nostalgic depiction of childhood. The children danced over the screen, each in their own little world, with their own stumbles and slip-ups. They grew older and moved out of their sides of the screen, narrowly missing each other each time they passed, until suddenly they crashed into each other. The colors shifted to technicolor, and they started dancing together. A little awkward at first, but progressively more in sync. You could see them each moving in and out of each other's space, doing their own thing and things together. They were bursts of black and white as tragedy struck them, individually or together, color slowly returning as they lifted each other back up, angry flares of red shading as they clashed and fell out of harmony, another shock of black and white, but now the one who was struck was alone. Woman was a mess by this point. The movie had really touched him so far. Suddenly he felt a weight over his shoulder as he was pulled to the side. Virgil had wrapped his arm around his shoulder and was now pulling him into his chest in comfort. Woman wasn't going to complain. He gladly laid his head against Virgil's shoulder and watched the story progress once more. The other moved in. Reds and blues popped up between the black and white and became less glaring as they started to waltz together once more. Careful at first, the one offering aid following the lead of the other. They picked up the pace, and more colors blossomed on the screen until the world was bright again. Not just that, but in high definition now, as the camera panned out and showed a city of people dancing with each other in harmony. Mostly. There were stumbles, but there was always someone to catch them. The screen faded and an elegant writing appeared. Soulmates are made, not found. And then the credits rolled. The audience burst into applause, and Roman reluctantly moved out of Virgil's embrace and clapped along, wiping at his eyes. You okay, Princey? Virgil asked softly as they moved back to the lobby. Yeah, sure, Shadow Lord. Roman smirked at him. It was just really great, he said. Yeah, I liked it too. It was cool that at no point it was defined as a romantic relationship, and that the characters were people outside of each other too. I'd like to see more of that in big budget movies, honestly, Virgil recounted. Woman nodded. Yeah, this better get an A plus, he said. Virgil grinned. Wanna tell that to the writer director? He suggested. Woman nodded. We even have to ask. Virgil chuckled and led Roman to a group surrounding who one would have to assume was the artist of the hour. Hey, Sam, Virgil called out. The crowd parted and made way for a femme-presenting individual. They were dressed in a suit and tie and very tight. A good head shorter than Virgil, which meant Roman really had to look down to meet their eyes. Hi, he said. I'm sorry to bother. I just want to say that I am so happy I got to see you work. I hope you get a prize for this, because you should. Sam giggled a little flustered. Thanks. We've all worked hard on this. So it would be nice, they agreed. We'll get out of your hair. Good luck, Virgil offered before leading Roman away again. Do you want to go to any other stores, or did you find everything? He wondered. Roman bit his lip. I'm good, but I don't want to go home yet, he admitted, as Virgil walked him outside. Who said anything about going home? I did ask you to tell your parents that you wouldn't be having dinner with them tonight, right? He reminded Roman. Oh, well, yes, Roman nodded. He thought that Virgil had been covering his bases, but it seemed like his surprises for the day didn't end with the show. Good. Wouldn't want them to worry. He smiled as he led them down the street. The press will be very upset with us disappearing for the rest of the afternoon and a decent portion of the evening. But that's not our problem. He winked. Roman chuckled, happy that he would be able to spend the rest of his birthday without the photographers that shadowed them right now. Here we are, Virgil announced, as he rang the doorbell to a shop with two window displays. One held mannequins with costumes straight from a fantasy novel, and the other held pictures of people wearing those same costumes in epic sceneries. Woman was quite fascinated by both. The door opened to a brightly smiling woman in a pink dress. Oh my God, Virgil, there you are! And you brought your friend Awesome! They exclaimed as they grabbed Roman and Virgil's hand and dragged them inside, the door falling shut behind them. Come on, Jamie's waiting for us. My name is Sasha, by the way. She, her. Jamie is my partner. Yes, in both meanings of the word, she giggled. You mean you two finally made it official? Virgil grinned as Sasha had finally let go of their hands and walked them into a big photo studio with a massive green screen. It was more like half the room and various screen props. There was a photographer setting up some equipment. Jamie gave them a wave and cast Sasha a fond look. Oh, hush, Sasha scolded playfully before turning to Roman. So that's Jamie, they, them, and Virgie. Have I told you look stunning today? Jamie, doesn't he look stunning? She called back. Jamie chuckled. He's looking good, they agreed. Roman thought he saw a mischievous glint in their eyes, but it was gone in a flash. Thanks, guys. Virgil smiled before turning to Roman. I've helped him on occasion with designing backgrounds and props. Sasha is an amazing seamstress and costume designer. She'll be the one who's going to make you look like a real prince this summer. And today, Virgil looked at him in that cute way he occasionally did when he wasn't sure how Roman would respond. A prince? He asked incredulously. Um, yeah, if you want, Virgil said softly. Tasha was not giving Roman a chance to back out, though. Not that he wanted her to. I know exactly what to use. We make custom ordered costumes here, but I also have a few of my own designs that are at the ready for some short notice things. And she circled him attentively. Oh, yes, I won't have to make too many adjustments for the shoot. Jamie will take your pictures and then we add the backgrounds Virgil designed for you afterwards, she explained with a gesture to a suddenly very shy-looking Virgil. He was playing with his skirt again, awaiting Roman's reaction. That, Virgil, that is amazing! You really didn't have to do all that, Roman said, moved. Virgil shrugged. Just get dressed already, Your Majesty, he smiled carefully. Sasha took that as her cue and dragged Roman to a dressing room, where she immediately pulled out some makeup. Just a bit for the camera, she winked as she finished powdering him. Clearly very used to this. Give me a minute, she then said before disappearing. Roman looked around and sat down to process everything for a second. Virgil looked amazing today, and while holding his hand earlier might have been unintentional, comforting him during the movie wasn't. Roman wrapped his arms around himself for a minute to process that. Virgil had embraced him, held him close against his chest. God, he wanted to stay there forever, though he wouldn't mind returning the favor either. I'm back! Sasha exclaimed before Roman could start daydreaming. Okay, I collected everything I need. You start by putting on this shirt. She tossed him a white shirt. And these pants? A set of comfortable black pants followed. You can wear your own shoes, and I'll help you put on the rest, she grinned as she put aside a few other items. Roman saw whites and reds mostly. Chop chop! Can't leave Virgil waiting, she insisted before walking out the door. Roman quickly changed, and though he was curious to inspect the other items, he knew that the happy-go-lucky type was not the one you wanted to have upset at you. So he opened the door to let her know that he was ready. He spotted her whispering with Virgil and Jamie. I'm ready, Roman called out. They all looked up and Sasha rushed over to him, pulling him inside. What was the whispering about? Roman asked as Sasha turned the full-length mirror around and picked up a long red piece of fabric that she immediately started to secure around his waist. Oh, we were trying to give Virgil something to do while we take the first few rounds of pictures, she explained as she picked up a red coat with golden accents. Why? Roman wondered as he let her attach a white cravat to the center of his collar, making the shirt look extra fancy, no doubt. We both know that he'll distract you if he stays, she smirked knowingly. Roman couldn't really argue with that. Now, just a touch of bling and we're done, Sasha decided as she clipped a gold-framed ruby at the place his collarbones met, and then she retrieved a simple gold crown with another glass ruby at the center. No prince is complete without a crown, she winked before putting it on his head. Then she turned the mirror back around with a grin, and Roman was in awe. He looked dashing. There was no other word for it. The shock on his face turned to a happy smile, and he was actually a little emotional. His whole life he daydreamed of being the protagonist of an epic story, and in this moment he truly looked like a prince. And this was only the start. He soon would be in possession of not just the amazing drawings Virgil had made him, which Roman would no doubt be staring at a lot as he imagined the two of them on an epic adventure through the Disney dimension as they tried to get back home. On top of that, though, he would have actual pictures of himself in the middle of, well, he didn't know, which was kind of extra exciting. I know, I did a great job, Sasha grinned. Roman could only nod. Well, let's go then. Jamie should be all ready for you now, Sasha insisted as she practically pushed Roman out the door. Great job as always, Sparkles. Jamie grinned as Roman was pushed into the green room. He looked around and found Virgil gone. Connor got here while you were gone, and when he heard our ID, Virgil stood no chance, Jamie explained to Sasha as she walked over to Roman and gently guided him to the right spot. I can always count on him, Sasha grinned as she sat herself on one of the chairs across the room to give her partner space to work. Connor is going to study fashion design and has been assisting around here for about a year now. Virgil is in good hands with him, Jamie promised. Roman nodded, curious what this Connor was currently doing. Maybe Virgil would be a prince as well. Or a knight. Alright, let's start with some battle scenes, shall we? Jamie suggested. He handed Roman a long stick and a bracer of swords. Just hold these, we'll add in a sword and shield fitting your outfit. But don't I look a bit too dressed up for a battle? Roman worried. Jamie pursed their lips and nodded. You've got a point. Sasha? They called out. Sasha moved in and took Roman's coat and neckpiece, putting it to the side before helping Roman into some simple-looking foam armor. Don't worry, we'll make it look epic later, Sasha winked before returning to her seat. All right, now let's do this. Jamie said as they got their camera ready. And so Jamie guided Roman through countless poses, directing his gaze to where opponents would be added in, giving him motivations to help him adjust his expression and posture. And Roman imagined what it might look like later, taking on a dragon, rallying his army, standing victorious over the head of a beast. Then Sasha took off his armor, put on his cravat again, and directed him to a block. Roman imagined it would look like a windowsill. Some pictures in casual wear, she winked before handing him a rose. Not a real one, but it was a good prop. Roman went through different poses of a daydreaming, lovesick prince, sitting on the windowsill, pacing in his room, lying on the floor. Then he did it all again while wearing the coat. Then some angry shots, a prince frustrated at his given role in life, ripping off his crown and staring at it as though it had personally offended him. Then a portrait shot, because of course they needed one of those. A few actually. Sasha even rolled in a big green contraption Roman was to sit on like a horse. And though it looked silly now, Roman was giddy at the thought of how it might look later. Once he got off the horse, he was handed the stick again. Jamie wanted a few portraits with it and also a few action shots as though the prince was attacked in the middle of a formal function. Then a man walked into the studio, looking quite pleased with himself. He glanced over at Roman and stopped, looking him up and down. The guy was about Roman's age, which must mean he was Connor. He was wearing a shirt that said he, him in hot pink glitter, along with a pair of skinny jeans and black sneakers. He had a mohawk dyed in every color of the rainbow. He smirked at Roman in approval. He walked up to Sasha and whispered something to her. She lit up and nodded. Connor left, while waving at Roman and sending him a wink, and Sasha walked up to Jamie and whispered something to them. Jamie nodded. Roman, take a minute, we're setting something up for you, they announced, as they put their camera aside. Roman sat down on the block that had been many things over the last... How long had it even been? Time had been a bit of a blur. It couldn't have been that long, could it? He watched as Sasha and Jamie took down some of the screen, revealing a staircase leading to a door. At least, Roman assumed. It was kept out of view by a curtain. Was he supposed to do some dramatic entrance shots now? Okay, Roman, you stand there at the bottom of the stairs. I want you to just look up and wait, Jamie instructed. Roman did what he was told. He was just starting to wonder what this was about when the curtain moved. And a vision of absolute beauty stepped out. Virgil was wearing black heels and a silver headpiece and bracelets that connected to rings on his finger, embedded with modest purple glass gems. Woman had to focus on those details to give himself the time to process the freaking gorgeous dress he was wearing. It started at a black and white choker with a purple gem. From there, see-through black fabric with black web stitching reached until the place where his shoulder became his arms, and the line just above his pecs. The rest of his body was covered by an elegant purple dress, with a slit just above the knee. As Virgil walked down the stairs, a picture of stoic grace, Roman could see a see-through purple cape floating behind him. Then Virgil looked up, and Roman realized that he had been focusing on getting down the stairs in one piece until now. Their eyes met, and Virgil's face relaxed in his shock, his eyes wide and his mouth, lip shining with purple lipstick, agape in a silent breath of surprise. The audacity of this man! Looking like a dream, and he acts as if Roman even compares? Not to say Roman didn't appreciate a compliment, but still. They were both frozen. One of them had to move to break the spell, and while Roman would not mind staying in this moment for a little longer, he wanted to see Virgil up close. So he did the only thing that felt natural. He bowed for the prince in front of him. When he looked up, Virgil seemed to have collected himself and bowed as well before walking down the series of the stairs. Roman took Virgil's hand when he reached him and bowed once more to brush his lips against his ring. You look breathtaking, he whispered as he righted himself and let go. Virgil smiled. Well, you look very good yourself, he said sincerely. Jamie, we need to keep Connor away. He looks perfect, Sasha whispered, just a little too loud, bursting the little bubble woman had found himself in. He turned both of them towards their audience. So, did you get the shots you wanted? He asked a little flustered. Jamie chuckled. We are nowhere near done, they said. Let's start with some more action shots. Two princes fighting off mercenaries side by side, they suggested, as Sasha brought them both a stick. And so Woman and Virgil moved through a few fighting poses, which helped honestly. Woman was focused on the imaginary enemies, so he wasn't constantly looking at Virgil. Jamie had them help each other up and defend each other as the other was down a few times too. Don't blame me, Highness. Virgil said to cover our bases. They winked, clearly enjoying this too much, as Sasha adjusted the woman's coat after they took a few shots of Woman cradling Virgil in his arms, and vice versa. Woman was kind of proud of himself for not making it weird. Though he probably would spend a good hour screaming into his pillow when he got home tonight. Today kept getting better, and this poor gay heart couldn't take much more. Okay, just one more back-to-back swords race. I want you both to imagine that this is ride or die. You could have run, but you have decided to fight, and now there is no going back. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Jamie exclaimed as their cameras clicked a mile a minute while they walked around them to get every possible angle. Splendid! Now let's do some more casual shots, they suggested, as Sasha took the swords back and put down some other props while they moved in some blocks to use as furniture. On the prop table now laid a few books, scrolls, gills, flowers, and chess sets and such. Things the prince might be holding when he wasn't doing any heroic stuff. Just walk around, sit down, do what feels natural, Jamie instructed as they took position. Roman automatically went for the parchment and the quill and sat himself at what he imagined could be made into a makeshift desk, pretending to write a sonnet to his love. He could hear Virgil move around behind him and sit down. A quick glance told him Virgil was pretending to read on a couch or in a windowsill. Roman continued to move the quill over the parchment, humming to himself, losing himself slowly to the infinite realms of his imagination, where he and Virgil were princes, and Virgil's family was visiting his palace. Roman would have fallen for him quickly, and they'd have formed a strong friendship right away. A band of mercenaries would have eventually found their way in the castle, and they would have fought them off side by side. Roman would have gotten injured, and Virgil would have saved him, carrying him to a healer and staying by his bedside. When Roman awoke, Virgil would have been there, and they would have confessed their feelings, and Roman faltered as he noticed the present at his side. He looked up and found Virgil looking over his shoulder at the empty paper. Virgil met his eyes and smiled softly. Roman smiled back, ignoring the sound of the shutter. Virgil's eyes sparkled with an idea, and he held out his hand. Roman put down his quill and let Virgil pull him to his feet. Without exchanging a word, Virgil hooked their arms together, and they started to walk around as if they were strolling through a royal garden. So, how do you like your present? Virgil wondered casually. Which one? The drawings, lunch, the movie, the shoot, getting to wear this outfit? Being blessed by seeing you in a skirt and a dress in one day? All of it, I guess. I told you I wasn't done, Virgil pointed out. You did. And it was all wonderful, Virgil. I feel like I am dreaming. Today was a wish come true, he told the purple vision sincerely. But you better be prepared for me to return the favor in full. I will figure out a way to make your heart soar, he said meaningfully, locking their eyes. Virgil's heels compensated for their height difference enough that it didn't feel like he had to look down much at all. Roman recalled seeing that Virgil's brothers all seemed to be as tall or taller than Thomas, who was about Roman's height. He wondered if getting sick had messed with Virgil's growth, or if he just got the short genes somehow. He wasn't going to ask. It didn't really matter. Virgil chuckled. Was that an intentional Treasure Planet reference, or were you just being extra? Roman scoffed. My Disney references are always intentional. How dare you insinuate otherwise? He asked with a playful smirk. My apologies, Highness. I forgot who I was talking to for a moment, Virgil allowed. Seriously, though, please tell me you didn't spend too much money on all of this, just to give me a good time, Roman asked. It's impolite to ask about the price of a gift. I'm fine, Princey. I had fun, you had fun. That's the important part, Virgil insisted. Roman was about to argue, but then piano music started playing. He recognized the opening chords at once. So close, from Enchanted. A waltz. Without hesitation, he turned them both to face one another. May I have this dance? He asked. Virgil blushed, ever so faintly, and nodded. Just when Roman thought his heart had given all it could, he found it could skip to new, insane levels. Holding Virgil in his arms and leading him through the steps as they moved around the room, he felt lighter than air. The song played on in the background, and Roman's eyes did not leave Virgil's for a second as he mouthed along to the lyrics. And in his heart he felt hope, as he saw Virgil look as impressed as he felt. They weren't in the studio, as far as Roman was concerned. They were in a world all their own, with the music there to guide them. Feeling daring, Roman took advantage of the music picking up and started spinning Virgil around, pulling him back close to his chest and swaying across the floor. And then the music slowed down again, and Roman lowered Virgil in a dip. Oh, how could I face the faceless day if I should lose you now? He sang along before pulling Virgil back up and spinning across the room with him once more as the music picked up again. Too soon it came to an end, though, and Roman, for a brief moment, considered kissing Virgil. But as the lyrics reminded him, they were closer than ever, but still too far for that to be something he should give too much thought to. So instead, when the last notes subsided, and Roman found himself once more dipping Virgil as low as he dared, he simply smiled at him, brought him back up, stepped back as he let go, and bowed. You were a magnificent dance partner, he said sincerely. Virgil's cheeks were a lovely pink. Well, it's all in the leading, so you have yourself to thank for that, he offered. Wow! Roman and Virgil looked up, snapping out of their bubble once more. Sasha and Jamie were staring at them awed. Did you need us to do more poses? Roman asked, a little flustered. No, I think we're good, Jamie said, going through her pictures on her camera, looking pretty impressed. Besides, I believe Connor is done with setting up dinner, Sasha smirked. Dinner? Roman asked curiously. Sure, he figured they'd eat together. He thought they'd get pizza or something. This sounded like it was a whole thing. Let's just get changed and I'll take you there. Thanks again, guys, Virgil said. Oh, you are welcome, Virg. Don't forget to look up when you two leave, okay? Sasha told him. Sure thing. Roman, you just hang your things away. I'll put them in their place while you eat, the designer assured him. Roman nodded and made his way to the dressing room. He'd never changed clothes so fast. Still, when he came out, Virgil was already waiting for him. Clothes and makeup back to how it was earlier today. What's with the look, Princey? Disappointed? Virgil smirked, though his eyes searched his face. Understandable. Roman didn't know for sure what he was feeling right now. He was hopeful, nervous, excited, terrified. Was this a date this whole time? Was Virgil waiting for Roman to do something? Should he have kissed him? Held his hand at some point? No, just overwhelmed, I guess. I never dreamed I'd have a day like today, he explained awkwardly. Virgil nodded. Well, I promise this is the last surprise. After dinner, I'll take you home, he said. It was definitely disappointment that washed over Roman at that thought. He knew he'd have to go home at some point, but it felt like the day had flown by, and he wasn't ready to end it. He nodded. Lead the way, he said, trying to focus on the fact that he would be having a lovely dinner with Virgil before they parted ways. Any team again tomorrow. He was led up the stairs all the way to a door in the roof, and when they opened it, Roman was greeted with a heartbreakingly cute setup. The roof had a terrace with a gazebo at the center. Dark blue tall curtains made it even more private without closing them up completely. Fairy lights made it look magical. Virgil led him past the curtains, revealing a complete set table. There was even a single rose in a vase at the center. Mon cher monsieur, Virgil said suddenly, pulling Roman from the edge of a gay freak-out. It is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure that I welcome you tonight. And now, relax, let me pull up this chair, he continued as he guided Roman to his seat and pulled back the chair to help him get seated. He was quoting Disney and being a gentleman, and the setting was amazing. How was he supposed not to think this was a date? Demi or not, Virgil knew that this was all very romantically coded, right? As the rooftop diner proudly presents, Virgil picked up something from under the tablecloth and presented it to Roman with a smirk. Your dinner. Pizza! Roman exclaimed as the scent hit him. Tonda style. A real Italian pizza. With all your favorite toppings, Virgil assured him as he took the pizza from the box and placed it on Roman's plate. We had that conversation ages ago. How do you remember these things? Roman wondered as Virgil sat down after placing his own pizza on his plate. I remember stuff about people I care about, he shrugged, not quite looking at Roman, who took the cue and started talking about trivial things as they ate dinner. They laughed and teased, and before Roman knew it, the pizza was gone and the evening was nearing its end. Virgil got up and guided Roman outside, turning off all the lights and locking up as he said they would. There were only two reporters who'd stuck around until they left the studio. All they got for their effort was two guys walking to a car that would yield no more pictures once they got in. When they did, though, Roman had to ask, well, I envy the one you take out on a date. If this is what you do just to celebrate a birthday, that poor soul doesn't stand a chance, Roman teased. Virgil chuckled and looked back at him. What if this was a date? He asked. The woman could tell he wasn't serious. You would have told me if it was supposed to be a date when you first suggested this last week, he stated, very sure of this fact, though he kind of wished he was wrong. You have a point, Virgil allowed thoughtfully. It's just, I want you to know that you are worth the effort, Roman. You deserve someone putting effort in making you happy. So if you do confess to your Julian, remember that. Remember that you are worth paying attention to, and you deserve to be taken care of, Virgil explained, a little sadly. Roman fought back his emotion for a minute. He wanted to tell Virgil how he felt. But what if he wasn't ready? He didn't want Virgil to feel like he had to put a label on whatever this was between them. He wanted him to figure it out on his own time. Thank you, Virgil. I'll never forget this, he promised. Good, Virgil stated, almost as if he was convincing himself of that still. Soon it was time for Roman to let Virgil through the gates and say goodbye. Thank you again, Virgil. It was a wonderful day, he said sincerely as he collected his bags and the drawings. No problem, Roman. Virgil rarely said his name, so Roman was taken aback by the way it sounded from his lip. One more thing, though. Roman looked up at Virgil and then felt his tie being pulled, making him lean forward, and before he could register anything else, he felt lips brushing against his cheek. Happy birthday, Virgil whispered before letting go. Thanks. Good night, Virgil. Roman replied breathlessly before getting out and rushing to the doors. He heard the car leaving, but couldn't muster the courage to look back one last time. He rushed inside and leaned against the door, emotions surging in strange waves and just chaos. Roman? The young actor looked up and saw his parents. I'm in love and I don't know what to do, he admitted. Mr. and Mrs. Fernandez didn't reply. Instead, they rushed to their son and embraced him.